Ruth Calloway made dinner for 2 on the last night of her life. This is what the neighbors remember, the smell of it. Something with garlic and herbs drifting across the yard around 6 in the evening. Her neighbor, an older man named Gerald Pruitt, said he thought to himself, that smells like a nice evening. It was not a nice evening. My name is Detective Cassandra Maddox. I expose the truths others would rather keep buried. This is one of those truths. Ruth was 38 years old. She lived alone in a 2-bedroom house on Weller Street in a small Ohio town called Dennisburg, population 4,000 and some. She worked as a dental hygienist. She had a cat named Oliver, a sister in Columbus she spoke to every Sunday, and a herb garden along the south side of her house that she was, by all accounts, unreasonably proud of. She was found the following morning by that same neighbor, Gerald Pruitt, who had noticed her car hadn't moved and her front door was standing open. Not broken open, not forced, just open. Ruth was on the kitchen floor. She was fully dressed. The dinner she had cooked, pasta it turned out with a tomato and herb sauce, was on the stove, partially served. 2 plates had been set on the table. One had been eaten from, one had not. The guest, whoever they were, had left. And Ruth had died on her kitchen floor with no signs of struggle, no defensive wounds, no obvious cause, just stopped, the way a clock stops when someone forgets to wind it. The initial finding was accidental poisoning. This is where I need you to stay with me, because what comes next is one of the most quietly terrible things I have ever encountered in this work. The toxicology screen took 11 days. What it found was a compound called aconitine, extracted from the plant Aconitum napellus, commonly known as monkshood or wolfsbane. Aconitine poisoning presents in its early stages as a tingling of the lips and tongue, then the hands, then a burning sensation spreading inward, then cardiac arrhythmia, then respiratory failure. It is, to be direct about it, an agonizing way to die. It is also, in small quantities, extraordinarily difficult to detect without knowing to look for it. The initial attending physician did not know to look for it. It took a toxicologist reviewing the case on a second pass to flag it. The ruling was quietly revised from accidental to undetermined. It was never revised to homicide. I want you to think about that. Monkshood is not an exotic plant. It grows in gardens across North America. It is tall, flowering, with deep violet blooms that look, and this is the part that stays with me, genuinely beautiful. It is frequently sold in nurseries. It is frequently planted by people who simply like the way it looks. Ruth Calloway had a herb garden, but she did not grow monkshood. Her sister Dana was certain of this. Dana had helped Ruth plant that garden 3 summers earlier and remembered exactly what was in it. Basil, parsley, thyme, rosemary, oregano, chives. They'd made a list. Dana still had the list on her phone. She showed it to the detective assigned to the case. He noted it in the file and did not follow up. Dana called him 4 times over the following 3 weeks. She told me that on the 4th call, he was polite, but clearly impatient. He told her that aconitine could also be absorbed through skin contact, that accidental contamination during gardening was a known, if rare, occurrence, and that without evidence of intent, the case would remain classified as undetermined. Dana said there were 2 plates on that table. He said he understood her concern. Here is what 2 plates means. Ruth had made dinner for someone who came to her house on a Tuesday evening, sat down at her table and ate. someone who was there when she died, or shortly before. Someone who, and I want to be very precise about this, left without calling for help. The guest never came forward, not to police, not to her family, not at her funeral, which was attended by 41 people, all of whom Dana watched carefully, looking for someone who seemed wrong, seemed guilty, seemed to be carrying something. No one came forward. And so for a long time, the question of who sat across from Ruth Calloway at that table on the last night of her life simply hung there, unanswered, unasked, officially. Dana did not let it hang. Dana spent 7 months doing what the police had not. She went through Ruth's phone records. She talked to Ruth's co-workers, her friends, her yoga instructor, the woman who sold vegetables at the farmer's market that Ruth visited every Saturday. She built, piece by piece, a picture of her sister's life in the months before she died. And what emerged was this. Ruth had been seeing someone. Casually, it seemed. She hadn't told Dana directly, and this, Dana said, was itself significant, because Ruth told Dana almost everything. Whatever this was, Ruth had been keeping it quiet, or had been asked to keep it quiet. Dana found the name almost by accident, buried in a comment thread on a neighborhood Facebook group. Ruth had responded warmly to a post from a man named Callum Vress, and the exchange was small and unremarkable, except that Dana did not recognize the name, and Ruth had never mentioned him. She looked him up. Callum Vress was 44. He lived 12 minutes from Ruth's house. He was, at the time of Ruth's death, married. I want to be careful here. A man being in a private relationship with a woman who later dies is not, by itself, evidence of anything. People have affairs. People are cowards about coming forward. People panic. That does not make them killers. But Dana found something else. In the weeks after Ruth's death, while going through her sister's things, she found a notebook, not a diary exactly, more of a planning journal that Ruth kept. Grocery lists, appointments, things she wanted to do. And in it, 4 weeks before she died, Ruth had written something that Dana photographed and sent to me. I've looked at the photograph many times now. Ruth's handwriting was small and neat and slightly right-leaning, and in the margin of a page that was otherwise a shopping list, milk, lemons, olive oil, cat food, she had written, in the same unhurried hand, "He knows about the garden. He asked which plants were mine." That's all. No context, no name. "He knows about the garden. He asked which plants were mine." Callum Vress had, it turned out, a garden of his own. His wife mentioned it. Unprompted, I should say. When Dana managed to reach her by phone, she said her husband grew all kinds of things. She said it with the mild pride of someone describing a hobby. She did not know at the time of that conversation that her husband had been seeing Ruth Calloway, or that Ruth was dead. Dana did not tell her. She didn't know what to tell her. She didn't know what she had. She called the detective again. She told him about Callum Vress, about the notebook entry, about his garden. The detective told her that a note about a garden was not evidence of poisoning. He told her, again, that accidental contamination remained the most probable explanation. He told her the case was not closed, but that there was nothing new to act on. Dana told me she sat in her car in a parking lot after that call for 45 minutes. She didn't cry. She said she was past crying by then. She just sat there trying to understand how a woman could die with another person's fingerprints all over the circumstances of her death, and the world could simply continue. Callum Vress was never questioned. Not formally. Not by anyone with a badge or a recorder or the authority to make him answer. Dana sent everything she had, the notebook, the Facebook exchange, the photograph of his garden, to the detective in a single email with the subject line, "Please read this." She received an auto reply informing her the detective was on leave. When he returned, he called her once, briefly, and told her that what she'd sent him was circumstantial. That word, circumstantial. As though Ruth's life had been a court case that simply hadn't met its burden. She never heard from him again. Callum Vress and his wife sold their house 14 months after Ruth died and moved to a town in western Pennsylvania. I know the town. I'm not going to say it here. Ruth's cat, Oliver, is still with Gerald Pruitt next door. He sits in the front window most mornings. Her herb garden was pulled out by the new tenants the following spring. And somewhere in western Pennsylvania, if the season is right, there may be tall violet flowers growing quietly in a yard where the neighbors don't know to look at them twice. The case is classified as undetermined. It remains that way, and the person who came to dinner remains an unsettling mystery. If you're still here, you're one of the curious ones. Stick around. The next mystery's already waiting.